is how big of a deal Caitlin Clark playing in your city is. Atlanta moved the game to State Farm Arena, which is home to the Atlanta Hawks. Shortly before, they didn't move it shortly before tip-off, but before the tip-off, they were already at 16,888 full capacity there at State Farm Arena. Where the Atlanta Dream normally play, Gateway Center Arena, guess how much it holds?
Like 8,000?
3,500.
3,500.
So they had to move over there to the State Farm Arena to be able to accommodate all of the Caitlin Clarkies out there. And then in the world of the NBA and the NHL, we are here in the conference finals in both leagues. The Oklahoma City Thunder just look unstoppable. Just a day after finding out that SGA was the MVP, he drops 38 points, got his squad, everyone on the team Rolexes, which that was really cool. Now the Thunder have a 2-0 lead after a 118-103 win over the Timberwolves. We'll talk more about this with Mark Monteith later. But Julius Randle for the Timberwolves. Now, Ant-Man jumped back up, or bounced back, rather, had a decent game at 32 points last night, but Julius Randle was, I believe, 2 of 10, 2 of 11 from the field, and only had 6 points. Now, this is not a game that I watched very much of last night. I was kind of focusing a little bit more on the radio side of things with the Atlanta Braves last night, and then the hockey game was a blowout. Both games were just, and it's different. It's different for me when an NBA game is tight, back and forth, neck and neck for the whole game, and then some team in the fourth quarter with 5 or 4 minutes left kind of starts taking a commanding lead and pulls away like that. But when it was like how it was last night, it's hard for me to get into the game and watch it, which stinks because we're so late into the season. We're coming up to the point where there is no more basketball for the rest of the season. So I'd like to see some good games, and I know I'll see one tonight with the Pacers. I hope, let's say it that way. I think we'll see a good game.
It might be kind of tough, man.
The
last game was pretty exciting, So for them to top that tonight, it'll be pressing your luck on that.
The Panthers, what they win last night? 5-0?
Yeah.
Blanked the Hurricanes. We talk about this every year, and we're going to be talking with Andrew Weiss as well, coming up at 5 o'clock, coming up in the very next segment. What did you see quickly from the Panthers and the Hurricanes last night? I mean, is this series even good? Both of these series, are they going to end up in sweeps?
I hope not. But, I mean, like, with Carolina, you just kind of have to wonder, man, what's going on with them. I think it's, 4, 8, 12. So 13 or 14 straight games in the conference finals that they've lost now. So that's, like, quite a bit. Not all under Rod Brindamore. I think all but 4 were under Rod Brindamore. And I like Rod Brindamore a lot as a player, coach, whatever. I just think that they, like, run a system, and they kind of have to adapt and not just do what they've been doing all year long to kind of get them here. They're going to have to change stuff up a little bit and do stuff differently. You've seen Florida. They've gotten, like, I don't know if it's like 15 or 16 different people that have been scoring points this playoffs. So everybody's contributing. It's not one player. It's the whole entire team is doing stuff for them. So I think they're not so reliant. They're not top heavy, just, relying on just a handful of guys to get them all their points and to make stuff happen. So I think that's what Carolina's got to figure that out, man. They got to start getting, scoring, and got to get stuff happening from, more than just the top 2 lines.
All right, I hear you there, and it's time for us to take a break. Andrew Weiss, our NHL ambassador, is going to join us. We'll talk about the Stanley Cup playoffs on the Eastern and Western Conference final side of things. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. We're the Afternoon Underdogs. We'll be right back.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
The Dan Patrick Show.
Flag football, I don't get this. The NFL was really proactive in getting flag football into the LA Olympics. If I'm the Dolphins owner, am I letting Tyreek Hill play? No. Am I going to let Joe Burrow play? No.
It's the Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings from 9 till 11. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good afternoon. This is Joanna on ESPN Northwest Florida with your weather forecast on this Friday. Sunny the rest of the day with a gentle breeze around 11 miles per hour out of the southwest and temps near 86. Tonight we will have clear skies and a wind speed of 6 miles per hour and be warm at 75. Sunny tomorrow and a high 86. Mostly sunshine Sunday with a temp of 86. Monday the high will reach 88 with mostly sunshine. This forecast is brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Thank you for tuning into ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Introducing water clear pools. the home of the 10-week pool guarantee. We guarantee custom pool completion from permit to your first swim in 10 weeks or less. Water Clear Pools is the premier pool builder for the Margaritaville development on Highway 79. Free quotes and custom pools anywhere in Northwest Florida. Call now, 850-835-4177, or see our website, waterclearpool.com. Licensed and insured. License number CPC 1459723.
Your biggest investment is your home. Protect it while also improving its appearance with Earthworks of Northwest Florida. We have sand, mulch, gravel, or lay-down decorative stone, all available for pickup and delivery. Discover your dream landscape with Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Imagine the moment you proudly pull up to your home that you've worked so hard for, enhanced by quality mulch, decorative stones, and more. Let's make it happen today. Request a quote online at earthworkspc.com or swing by the office at 2005 Industrial Drive. Love the land you live on.
GSX Lynn Haven, WVLQ Port St. John. Powered by Panama City Toyota, ESPN Northwest Florida.
Now is the time for Braves country to cheer a little louder as the 2025 Atlanta Braves start chopping their way back.
Fly ball to deep right, way back and gone. Home run, Ozuna.
Tonight, the Braves are back in town and Truist Park will be rocking as they look for some redemption against the San Diego Padres.
Padres in Atlanta to take on the Braves. Coverage starts at 6 o'clock. First pitch, 6:15. Your home for the Braves on the Gulf Coast, ESPN Northwest Florida.
You found us inside the CBC Construction Studios. Hometown sports talk from hometown hosts.
People are loving it.
We're live and local. Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs.
Are you kidding me?
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Welcome back. You're in the doghouse riding along with the Afternoon Underdogs. I'm David Hayes along with Caveman Rick and the Bone Crusher. You're tuned in to ESPN Northwest Florida 104.3 in Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. It is a beautiful Friday afternoon here as we're getting ready to celebrate Memorial Day and honor those that have fallen serving this great country. The Braves coverage starts tonight at 6 p.m. First pitch at 6:15, taking on the San Diego Padres. Don't miss the game on 104.3 and 101.9 on ESPN Northwest Florida. Braves baseball is sponsored locally by Best Way Portable Buildings, Reliable Hydraulic Solutions, Mid-South Lumber, and Brock Pest Control. Now let's get over to the Red 7T's phone line as we have Andrew Weiss waiting for us over there. Andrew is our NHL ambassador, does a great job keeping us up to date with what's going on in the world of the National Hockey League. Andrew, how are you on this Friday afternoon?
I mean, it's a Friday. You can't beat that. How are you guys doing?
We are
great, man.
Yeah, wonderful over this way. And we've been watching some lopsided hockey to this point. We'll see if things change, and we'll get your opinion on that along the way. What was your original prediction for the Carolina-Florida series? Because I know we didn't get you on before that series started.
I mean, it's going to sound silly now just because of the fact that Florida's up 2-0 already, but it genuinely was going to be Florida dominating this series. I mean, I just haven't seen Carolina do anything in an Eastern Conference final since I was in, elementary school, middle school at this point. So it's been 14 straight Eastern Conference final game losses for the Carolina Hurricanes dating back to 2009. That's the team that it's almost to be like the Moneyball Oakland A's, right? Like, they look great in the regular season, all these stats, all these great things that they're doing, and the analytics love them, and they're doing all these things the right way. But when the going gets tough, you come down the playoffs, one game can change just based on a star's presence, one big play, whatever it might be. And the Florida Panthers just are so deep, they're so talented, they're so physical. Carolina just looks completely and utterly outmanned. I mean, the Eastern Conference finalist has run through the state of Florida for the last 5 years. It's going to pretty quickly be 6.
Oh, so Florida in 6. So I can't see Carolina winning more than one game.
I mean,
what about you, Rick?
I was just going to say.
No. I mean, the state of Florida is going to represent the Eastern Conference final for 6 straight years. I don't think Carolina's winning a game. I think it's going to be a sweep.
Yeah, like I said, Carolina, I mean, they were already looking dejected and pretty beat. Like when Shane Gostisbehere's out there shooting pucks at people, and then he's getting ragdolled around out there after the fact. They just they looked like they're already beat, unfortunately. I don't think there's much hope for them.
Have there been any surprises for you, Andrew, in the Eastern Conference Finals to this point?
I almost want to say no because, again, the fact that Carolina has lost 14 straight Eastern Conference Final games that's insane to me. They've been swept 3 straight times, and they're on pace to be swept for the 4th straight time when making it that far. I feel like it's something that we don't talk about as a league, as fans, as reporters, whatever. Maybe because it's Carolina, it's not like it's Toronto or something that's a bigger market, whatever it might be. But this is a team that every year, they're the analytics darlings, and their underlying numbers are great, and they get so many shots on net, and they do such a great job of this, that, and whatever. And everyone says, oh, they play boring hockey, and their fans say, no, it's not boring, it's winning hockey. I'm sorry, but it's not winning hockey. What have you won playing this style? You've done nothing. You have the same amount of Eastern Conference Final wins as the Atlanta Thrashers, as the Arizona Coyotes since 2009. And Arizona played in the West. So, I'm sorry, but all this talk about boring hockey, the Islanders were maligned for years for playing quote-unquote boring hockey, and they were 1 win away from going to the Stanley Cup Finals back in 2021. 2020? 2021. One of those two. I'm bad at math. Either way, they went to the Eastern Conference Finals 2 straight years and played the Lightning both times and took them to a pretty good battle. Right now, Carolina's battle is a whole lot of nothing. I'm not saying a whole lot. It's almost sad at this point. It's men amongst kids. And I was talking to a good friend of mine and a colleague of mine now who's a former NHLer for 9 years. And we were talking about this series. And he said that he put the game on, Game 2, put that game on and just watched the game because it was so much fun to watch as an unbiased hockey person to see what the Florida Panthers do. They are so deep, and he mentioned multiple times, their forecheck is the best he's ever seen. They throw the puck in with reckless abandon. Like the Hurricane, it's strategic. Oh, we got to dump it in here, and we got to go retrieve it, and this is our play if we get the puck. Panthers don't care. They will throw the puck in, and then whoever's the first guy there, he's going to smack into the wall. The second guy is going to cover. The third guy is going to be in the right spot. The D are aggressive. They know how to get back in the right spots. It's thorough manhandling of opponents. And it's almost a little surprising seeing how Carolina's getting utterly worked over. I figured the first 2 games would be at least a little close, but it's not at all surprising to see Florida be this good. I really did think at the time when I watched the Panthers Lightning opening round series that would probably be the Eastern Conference Finals just in the first round. And I really do think if the Lightning had found a way to beat the Panthers, which this is a really good Panthers team, if they had found a way to beat them, they'd be the ones basically cakewalking their way to a finals appearance like Florida is now.
Yeah, I mean, and that series with Toronto, I believe I was saying it to Caveman Rick the other night, I almost feel bad for Toronto, not really, but just them going 7 with the Panthers the way that they did, and then you see the first 2 games now with the Panthers and the Hurricanes, it's like, man, they could have made the Stanley Cup. I don't know how they would have matched up with Dallas or Edmonton, but they could have, how wild would have that been had we had an all-Canada Stanley Cup? Glad that we don't have that around this way, but I do feel slightly bad for Toronto there. What star player has dictated the pace of this series to this point?
It's the funny thing is with the Panthers, and I know we mentioned this last week when we talked, but the funny thing is this is a team that isn't overly reliant on 1 or 2 players. And not that the Oilers, for example, they're not completely reliant on McDavid and Draisaitl, but they really are. And this Panthers team can score from anywhere. They can make impacts from everywhere. They all have a role and identity that they play. And you could have a guy like Matt Tkachuk take over a game one night, and Sam Bennett and Alex Markov. But then you have a guy like Eetu Luostarinen take over a game. AJ Greer's had some big goals. Like these guys, Nate Schmidt was outscoring the Lightning after the first 2 games of their first round series. A guy who was plucked off the scrap heap to fill in their defensive core while Aaron Ekblad was, out and suspended because of the steroid scandal. Like, it's crazy how they're getting contribution from everywhere. And I really think if you get down to, okay, who's the one guy, if you really had to pinpoint one, you'd probably have to lean Bobrovsky, just because the goaltending has been so consistently good for them for this whole playoff run outside of maybe 2 games against Toronto. He's been just a stud in net. he hasn't necessarily stolen them games because they've dominated so many games. But when you have a guy back there who's able to shut the door and you're down by a goal or 2 goals against this Panthers team, it's daunting. It gets in the back of your head for sure. You can tell these players on opposing teams, they're gripping their sticks a little tighter. You know, they're shooting wide. They're trying to pinpoint these fine areas because they know, it's going to be tough to score on this guy. So I'd probably have to lean Bobrovsky, but really, I mean, Sam Bennett's a pending free agent. I wouldn't be surprised to see him making $8 million or more on his next contract, despite his numbers indicating something along the $6 million a year mark. He's probably going to make $8 million just because of the impact he's made on helping get a team to the Stanley Cup final. That gives you a bonus in the next contract you make.
Yeah, that's exactly who I was going to go with, too, with that answer, Andrew. I would have said Bobrovsky, probably. Not anybody scoring, but I think goals against for the series so far is at 1. So, I mean, you can't ask for really more than that. So I would probably lean more towards him as far as answering that question. As far as we just talked about, star players or whatever, how about which, underrated player has emerged so far as an X factor in this series?
It's almost hard to call him underrated because he really isn't. But when Brad Marchand went to the Panthers at the trade deadline, he was coming off an injury. It was, pending free agent, but it's all right, he's getting a little older. He's not going to get a huge deal free agency. He'll get good money, but it's not going to be like a bank-breaking one. He comes into this Florida team, where he has a top-line guy in Boston, top power play. Now he's a third liner. He's not on the top power play anymore. He's going to be more of a role player. He's still Brad Marchand. And that means all extent of what that means, right? That is not just point production. That is the first 2 games of the series. I feel like more people are talking about him and Shane Gostisbehere than the score of either game. That's what he does. He is a perfect fit for this Panthers team that gets under your skin and gets you off your game. And the team that's going to beat the Panthers, if there is one, is a team that has their head on their shoulders and doesn't let it affect them, because Carolina has looked calm and confident in their first 2 series, but they're playing a rudderless New Jersey Devils team and a Capitals team that probably overachieved this year. And now they're playing a team that's actually deep, actually good, and they're real pains in the butt. And they look horrible. The Hurricanes look horrible. And they are right now just mentally not in the games because of guys like Brad Marchand. Whether he's putting up points, which he is, or he's just getting your head. That's the guy that, really drives so much to where underrated is a hard word to use in his situation because he really isn't. Or maybe undershown or any of those situations where it's all right, well, we all know who he is. But I don't think people realize the impact he would have as probably the best third-line player in the NHL right now.
You're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. We're on the Red 7T phone line with Andrew Weiss right now, our NHL ambassador. We'll switch gears to the Western Conference Finals between Edmonton and Dallas, where Dallas holds a 1-0 lead in that series. What was your original prediction for that series?
Yeah, so, this is going to be a much better, much closer series. So far it has been. Dallas, great comeback in Game 1 to defend home ice in that first game. To me, this is one that's 6 or 7 games. I lean Dallas because there's a little more certainty in net. Both teams have some good star players. The Oilers have more stars in terms of ceiling. A guy McDavid, a Draisaitl. It's better than anything that the Stars have to counter with in terms of star power, which is ironic considering the team name. But Dallas is just such a deeper team. They do have a lot of great scoring. They're getting great contributions up and down the roster. Mikko Rantanen is certainly no slouch when it comes to elite players. And it's very close, but to me, the big difference is Jake Ottinger versus the combination of Stuart Skinner and Calvin McCard in net. Ottinger is one of the best goalies in the world. There's a chance that he represents Team USA as the starting goalie in the Olympics next year. That'll be between him and Connor Hellebuyck. But that's one of the best goalies in the world, whereas the Oilers, it's kind of like the team like we talked about last week, like a team of destiny that just find ways to win despite the nonsense going on between their pipes. But I have the Dallas Stars in 7. Wouldn't be surprised to see 6, but I'm going to assume it's going to be a Sunshine State final with the Florida Panthers and the Dallas Stars.
And we're only 1 game into this series. Game 2 will be tonight. But what storyline, Andrew, has dominated this series so far?
I mean, early on, it's the goaltending, right? Stuart Skinner struggled in round one, got benched for Calvin Pickard, who came in and won 6 straight games. And then Pickard got hurt. Stuart Skinner goes back in. Everyone's like, uh-oh, what's going to happen now? And Skinner gets back-to-back shutouts over Vegas to lead Edmonton into the Western Conference Final. It's very Jekyll and Hyde. And that's what you're going to get out of a guy like Stuart Skinner. You're going to have games where it's like, oh, wow, he played pretty well. And then there's games where it's like, wow, this is below average goaltending. Not just average goaltending. This is below average. Like, it's literally his fault that these goals went in. And come playoff time, one bad game can be the difference between you moving on and you going home. So, to me, that's going to be the storyline. The entire series is going to be the goaltending. It's going to be Jake Ottinger being a solid presence, Stuart Skinner not so much. If the Oilers can get saves out of him, just slightly above average goaltending, or even average goaltending, they have an extremely talented team that can score goals at will, and they can defend pretty well when they want to. But they don't always want to, and because of that, sometimes they're reliant on their goaltending, and that was the issue in Game 1. When you're up 3-1, you're hoping to defend that lead come playoff time. You shouldn't be losing, let alone 6-3.
Andrew, how many goals do you think Stuart Skinner can give up tonight before they go in a different direction?
See, that's the fun thing, is Calvin Pickard is still not 100%. I think if he was, then he would be the one in the net right now, because there's just clearly a lack of trust with Skinner, but they don't have really another option. I can't tell you their third goalie is off the top of my head. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's already Stuart Skinner being your starting goalie for most of the year was below average compared to the rest of the league, which means your backup's probably below average compared to the rest of the league, which was Calvin Pickard, which means your third goalie, you see the trend. It's more likely than not that they know that unless they get some crazy miracle run out of a third-string goalie in a Jordan Binnington, Andrew Hammond, Devin Dubnyk style streak where this guy just goes on a crazy run, they're not going to do any better than Stuart Skinner already is doing, even when he's playing poorly. And they're already getting that kind of run out of Calvin Pickard anyway, who's still posting a save percentage below 900, which is still below average. But he just happens to be doing enough to win games, which who cares what your stats are if you're winning, right?
Yeah.
So until Calvin Pickard, or if he's healthy at any point, but until he's healthy, to me it's Skinner's net, unless he completely and utterly implodes. So to answer your question in a long-winded form, unless he's giving up 6 over and over, they don't really have anything else, no other options to choose from.
The answer is Colin Delia is the third-string goaltender that it looks like the Oilers have on their roster, what I'm saying.
Yeah, there's a reason that I didn't know, and you had to look it up. Let's just put it that way. No disrespect to Colin Delia, but I feel like I know of him from his Chicago Blackhawks days as one of those goalies that was like one of like 12 goalies that played for them one season when after Crawford left and they needed like a bunch of random bodies. I feel like that's where I know him from the most.
Maybe you might know the answer to this, Andrew, so let me ask it. I'm assuming that they probably do the same thing, but is there like an EPUB goaltender that they would use, in the event they needed to, like a guy that like drives a Zamboni like we've seen before in the past, like when that guy did it from Carolina?
Goaltender.
Yeah, technically speaking, yes. The issue is come playoff time, that's usually not an option. There is emergency backup goalies, but that's usually when there's an injury to not only the starting goalie, but the backup goalie around game time. At this point, especially this deep of playoffs, but at this point in the year, once playoffs come around, your third goalie is usually ready at any point to be called into action, whether it's backup or in extreme cases as a starter. But you usually will have a black ace goalie. Your minor league team is knocked out of the playoffs. You keep around, 3 or 4 extra guys, some forwards, some D, a goalie, to be ready in case of injuries, to be in the lineup. I remember the Lightning had Alex Volkov join their lineup for Game 6 against the Dallas Stars back in the 2020 Cup. But I don't remember if it was a black ace specifically, but it does happen where you have guys get injured, and you bring in new faces, and you bring in, the guys who are with your minor league team. So at this point, usually teams will have a third goalie hanging around to be ready for this moment. So an e-bug is usually it's rare for a regular season game. I'm not sure we'll ever see one in a playoff game, to be honest. It'd be really fun to watch, though. As a unbiased observer, if it was my team, I would be probably in the psych ward by the end of the first period.
Andrew, final question for you, and we'll let you go enjoy your Friday evening and some of the Stars and Edmonton Oilers. Speaking of that series, which of these teams are actually... No, we won't. I won't ask you that. We'll save that one for another time. Who's got the most to gain or lose from this playoff run when it comes to their franchise's legacy?
Oh, that's an interesting one, because a Panthers Cup win would mean that they have just repeated what the Lightning, their rival, just did with 3 straight Cup appearances and 2 wins back-to-back. That would put them among, a very rarefied air. However, with that said, right, I'm going to ignore Carolina because to me it doesn't move the needle significantly. Dallas, with the core that they've developed, it'd be good for them to get a win, etc. But I think the biggest mover would be Edmonton for multiple reasons. The first being Connor McDavid still has not won a cup. He's considered the greatest player in the world, if not one of the greatest players in the world. For a lot of people, he's already on the Mount Rushmore of hockey players all time in terms of skill. He's already over 1,000 points as a 8-year-old, but no cup. And all the greats have a cup. Crosby's got a cup, and Lemieux and Gretzky and all these guys all have cups. So he's got to cement his legacy. He's got to go earn himself a Stanley Cup, right? So falling short by 1 goal in Game 7 last year, it's tough, but that's not a cup. So that's a big part of it. The other part of it is that quietly running storyline that the country of Canada haven't had a team take home the Stanley Cup since 1993. It's been quite a bit. You can do the math. So there's the second storyline there. I don't think the Oilers particularly care all that much about that second one. The focus is not even on storylines, it's just winning the cup. But to me, that's probably the most to gain, most to lose would be Edmonton, with how they've loaded up for this. They've built around their stars best they can. Maybe not as best they can, but that's my own opinion. But it's Connor McDavid. It's one of the greatest, if not the greatest in the world. You got to go win a cup if you're him. And anything less than that is a failure.
I love it. Great answers. As always, Andrew, we look forward to moving along through these conference finals here. It could be swift. It could be not, depending on that Dallas-Edmonton series and how all those things play out. But we'll catch up with you next week regardless. Thanks so much for your time, my friend.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me on. Enjoy the weekend.
Hey, there we go. Happy Memorial Day to you. Andrew Weiss, ladies and gentlemen. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. Coming up next, we're going to talk a little more NBA with Mark Monteith. We'll be right back.
Your attention, please.
ESPN Northwest Florida reminds you it's the law. It's the law. When there's a double red flag, stay out of the water, stick your toes in the sand, grab a cold drink, and listen to live sports.
Swung on, miss, strike 3.
On 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Double play!
This is Joanna with your latest forecast on ESPN Northwest Florida this Friday. For tonight, mostly clear skies and a low of 76 with a light breeze out of the west-southwest around 6 miles per hour. Tomorrow morning, sunshine with temps around 85. In the afternoon and evening, sunny with a gentle breeze and a temperature near 85. Moving into Sunday, about the same with a high of 86 and mostly sunny. This forecast is brought to you by Ellis Agency Insurance. Thank you for keeping that dial on ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Lone Star Boil House and Sports Bar, where the locals go for the best boiled seafood around. Crawfish, shrimp, red royals, and everything crabs. Watch almost every sporting event in the country on their huge outdoor jumbotron. Follow them on Facebook to stay up to date on weekly events, live music, and food and beer specials. Lone Star Boil House and Sports Bar, your home away from home for sports, good times, and great food. The best boiled seafood. Lone Star Boil House and Sports Bar, 320 West 5th Street, downtown Panama City.
Hi, folks. It's Tracy from Tracy's Fine Jewelry. Did you know that we have a master jeweler right here in the store? That's right. She has over 20 years experience in the art of repairing jewelry. Most repairs are done within a week, so don't send your jewelry off for 6 weeks. Bring it to us at Tracy's Fine Jewelry. We size rings and solder chains. We can reset your diamond into a new setting and even custom design. You'll get your jewelry back quickly and looking as good as new. Tracy's Fine Jewelry, Bay County's trusted jeweler for over 50 years.
Now, we're live and local inside the CBC Construction Studios. When the sun sets on the Emerald Coast, the freaks come out and play.
Hi, I'm a recovering crackhead.
Hand me that shotgun.
The Afternoon Underdogs.
Get on your knees!
ESPN Northwest Florida.
We're back inside of the CBC Construction Studios. You can go to cbcconstruction.com or give them a call at 850-747-3815. I'm David Hayes along with Caveman Rick and the Bone Crusher. We're the Afternoon Underdogs, and you're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida, 104.3 in Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. At the 4th annual Pops Pig and Barbecue, all proceeds going to help out Chef Ross with his hurricane relief efforts. Dinner tickets are $20. Pool tournament 1 p.m. starts at 1 p.m. It'll be $15 to enter into that. All of this is in honor of his father, Ron Pops Robinson. Saturday, June 14th from 12 to 6 p.m. at the Break Room, 2727 Joan Avenue. Now let's get over to the Red 7T's phone line. We've got Mark Monteith, freelance writer, editor, and author Mark Monteith. Mark, how are you doing today on this afternoon?
I'm doing great. Good to be with you guys.
Great to have you back. It has been a while. In fact, how I ended up getting connected with you was Greg Calvert, and he texted me today asking if he could call in and talk Pacers, and I said, of course. I gave him a time, and then I let him know that you would be in with us at 5:20. So thankful to Greg Calvert and really excited about these Indiana Pacers. What's your excitement level at, Mark?
Well, man, they are the most entertaining and interesting team I've seen in a long time. Maybe, I've seen all the Pacer teams over the years, and I think this might top them all because they just keep finding dramatic and amazing ways to win games. All these last-second shots or comebacks or blowout wins or whatever. They've really got a unique team. They're sometimes described as a college team. They really are in a lot of ways with the enthusiasm that they play with and the balance, the teamwork, the depth. I mean, they really have a great situation. Now, maybe they don't have, I don't know, it's hard to, I started to say they don't have the superstar or the, Hall of Fame kind of player that teams usually need to win a championship, but maybe they do. Halliburton is kind of becoming that guy. And Siakam is an all-star, and they have other guys who are like borderline all-star caliber players. So they've got really as entertaining a team as I've ever seen the Pacers have.
All right, yeah, it's been a lot of fun for me to watch as well. I don't have the as much of the history as you do, but as far as excitement goes, it has been very exciting, and just the growth of Tyrese Halliburton from people, his peers, calling him overrated to him saying overrate that, all the way to the Miller impersonation, which, by the way, we'll go right there. I loved his response to the question he was asked about that Reggie impersonation celebration where, he did the choke sign as Reggie did to Spike Lee back in the 90s there, but and he said, hey, I thought that was a three. I thought it was a game winner, and I was saving that celebration for the right moment. How did you feel about that? Did he do it too early in the series? Was it just right? How did you feel about the Tyrese celebration?
Well, like you, I liked his answer to it. He said, I would not have done it if I knew it was a two. And I don't fault him for doing it. That kind of stuff doesn't really bother me. You're setting yourself up. There's going to be a backlash. You've got to back it up. And by the way, when Reggie did it in Game 5 of the 94 playoffs, when he had that 25-point fourth quarter in the Garden, the Pacers lost the next two games and the series. They were up 3-2 at that point, and Reggie runs off the floor yelling, choke artist, and they go back home and lose, and then they lose Game 7 in New York. So, and Tyrese, by the way, is aware of that. He mentioned that he watched the documentary Winning Time and is aware that the reaction to that was not good. So But, he kind of did it as a tribute to Reggie. I think they're close. A lot of respect for Reggie, and he's kind of becoming the next Reggie Miller with all his highlight moments and dramatic playoff success. And it didn't bother me, but I also liked his answer. It would not have been appropriate if it only forced an overtime, but he didn't realize his toe was on that line, and he had only forced overtime. So all the circumstances I didn't mind, and I thought his answer to that kind of cleared it all up.
Yeah, he's had two situations like that, at least in this playoff. The one where they clinched over the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round, and his dad ran out there on the court, and I felt like his response to that was, spectacular, because that's a tough position to be in as a professional athlete, because you got dad and then you have employer as well, and I feel like he toed the line as good as you can.
I agree totally. Tyrese is proving to be a really mature guy. He plays the game with a lot of boyish enthusiasm. I didn't like it when he was, a couple of years ago after he did a three, he'd skip back on defense.
Yeah.
I was never a fan of that. But he has really evolved into a mature kind of player who has maintained his positive outlook and enthusiasm. Obviously, his teammates like playing with him. He'll get you the ball. So I think he's rounding into a really exceptional player and leader.
What would you say has been the key to his impact here for the Pacers and his time being there since being traded from the Kings? What would you say is the factor, the biggest factor for him that has helped turn around this franchise, along with the help, of course, of, we can't forget, Rick Carlisle and his coaching strategies and picking the pace up for the Indiana Pacers?
Well, they gave Tyrese kind of the keys to the kingdom. They immediately after his first half season there said, hey, this is our guy. We're going to keep him here. We are going to consult with him as we build the team. They made him the man, and he latched onto that. Obviously, it was a great situation for him. And he's a Midwestern guy. He grew up in Wisconsin, so he's not a guy who is looking for a bigger market like Paul George was. And some guys like to play in smaller markets, some guys don't. And Tyrese is the guy who's perfectly happy in Indianapolis, comfortable in the Midwest. I guess you can say kind of has a Midwestern personality. He's friendly. He's not an egomaniac, despite that choke sign. I don't consider him an egomaniac. So he just fits. And the Pacers have built around him. And anybody who's a good passer, anybody who will get you the ball, guys are going to like playing with. And I thought early on that Tyrese was too scoring-oriented. You want your point guards to be pass first, but as they surrounded him with scoring talent, particularly Pascal Siakam, he has backed off of that somewhat. His usage rate has gone down. His field goal attempts per game has gone down, and he's okay with that. And that has kind of made everything work. Now, they've got 5 guys now in that starting lineup who can score 30 points. And they often and should put all 5 in double figures in most games. So it just all works now. And it all starts with Halliburton, and it starts with the way they treated him when they acquired him. And now they look to have a bright future for at least a few years to come.
It is exciting times if you're an Indiana Pacers fan. Back-to-back appearances in the Eastern Conference Finals. You're listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. On the Red 7 T's phone line with us right now is Mark Monteith. How'd the Pacers handle the Knicks' physicality and also the second chance points? And what's the key for them to out-rebound the Knicks as we move through this series?
Yeah, that's rebounding is their primary weakness. They were the second worst rebounding team in the NBA last season. They're kind of an undersized team, and that caught my eye going into the series that the Knicks across the front line just appear to be so much more physical and just strong. And the Pacers were out rebounded in game 1, but they got up more shots because they didn't turn the ball over. And they actually had more second chance points than the Knicks did. That's very rare for them. So that's going to be a major issue throughout the series, rebounding. They're going to have to really be focused on that. And it's not just the front line. The Knicks and the Pacers both put up so many three-point shots that there's going to be a lot of long rebounds, and the guards are going to have to really be alert to that and go after them, because the Pacers too often stand and watch. And unless the ball comes right to them, they don't get an offensive rebound. And I can tell you some of the greatest moments in franchise history have come off of offensive rebounds, and they need to get those. So, if you give a team 2 cracks at scoring, they're generally going to do it. So that's got to be the number one focus for them, along with running. And they were out-rebounded in Game 1, but they've got to really keep that margin of difference close like they did in Game 1 and not give up too many second chance points. If they could do that, their pace of play can wear down the Knicks in that short rotation over the course of time. And as the Knicks wear down, if they do, then the Pacers probably can stay with them on the boards.
Aaron Nesmith was playing fourth quarter hero for the Indiana Pacers last night. That was a lot of fun just seeing him down the stretch and going 8 of 9 from the arc and just how nuts he went in the final 5 minutes. But who's the most important player, in your opinion, Mark, in this series that's not named Jalen Brunson or Tyrese Halliburton?
That is a really good question. I think it'll change from game to game.
Yeah.
It was Nesmith in Game 1. It could easily be Turner or Nembhard in Game 2 or Siakam. Siakam's, he was an all-star this year. He's always capable of a big game. Nembhard has proven to be a great clutch player. He's hit big shots. He beat the Knicks with a three-point shot from about 30 feet last year in the playoffs.
Yep.
And Turner has had big moments, and he had a big three-pointer to kind of close out the Game 5 win in Cleveland. So there's really no answer to that question. And like I said, it would be a different player in every game. And I think, that's the strength of this Pacer team. And they remind me of the Pacer team that reached the conference finals in 2013 and 14, because that was a very balanced team. You had George Hill and Lance Stevenson and David West and Roy Hibbert, and those, and Paul George. And that was a balanced team. I remember in their closeout victory over the Knicks then, they had a different leading scorer in every game, or all 5 starters had been the leading scorer in one of the games of that series. So this team is very similar. You might have a different leading scorer in any of their games in the series. So, again, long answer to your question. You can't pick one guy. It's the balance that makes the difference for them.
Yeah, I was watching that Game 1 with one of my buddies who's from Indiana. He's also a Pacers fan as well. And they, put up on the graph on one of the lower thirds, one of the graphics that was the first Eastern Conference Finals win for the Pacers since 2004. And I'm like, man, that's so wild that we did we get swept by the Heat? That's the conversation that we were having. It felt like all of those went to Game 7.
One game, 1-7, 1-6.
Yeah. So all right. So yeah, they were.
Yeah,
they might have
I
missed
tweeted that. That was a major mistake there.
Yeah. Okay. So then it was 2014 was the last time that we won one in the final. All right. And that's why we have Mark Monteith on the case for us, ladies and gentlemen. If this game goes to Game 7, which team would you trust more in that raucous environment of Madison Square Garden, and why?
Well, I think the obvious answer would be the Knicks. I mean, they are the higher-seeded team, and they would have home court advantage. But keep in mind, last year, they played a Game 7 in the Garden, and the Pacers went in and shot like 67% and blew out the Knicks. Now, that Knicks team was banged up, had a couple starters out, and I think Brunson got hurt in that game. But still, the Pacers had no issue whatever with the pressure, and came out and just shot unbelievably well, again, like 67%. And, Game 1, they came out and hit, their first 8-10 shots or whatever. They showed great poise, calmness to start the game. So if you get to a Game 7 again this year, to me it's a toss-up, because the Pacers have proven they don't choke in those moments. But the Knicks have proven over the course of the season that they're a great team as well. I just think it's a really evenly matched series. The Knicks are more physical and don't play as fast. The Pacers love to run, have maybe slightly better. Well, they certainly have better depth, and that could make a difference as the series goes on. So, gosh, you would have to get to Game 7 and see how each team is faring to that point and who's healthy and who's not before you can even make that prediction.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I don't know if I am infused with a false confidence, but I said that if the Pacers win 1 in Madison Square Garden, then I think the Pacers wrap the series up in 6. I have a strong sense that they're going to win tonight, but again, I think that a lot of that is coming off of how that game went, because when we were keeping it close in game 1, when the Pacers were keeping it close with the Knicks throughout the entirety of the game, it was like, this is, you're expected to lose game 1 as the road team, and then they felt, kind of started falling apart. The Knicks go on like a 14-4 run, and well, all right, I guess this is rearing its ugly head here a little bit. We've kept it close and everything, but you can never say never. So will they make another march at a comeback? And they do exactly that. So we'll have to see, but I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stick with Pacers in 6. What do you think?
I think that's fair. I think tonight's game will be really interesting to see how the Pacers and the Knicks approach it. Usually, when the road team wins game 2, in the back of their mind, they're thinking, well, we came what we came to do. We got done what we needed to do. We got home court advantage. We got the road win. And they relax and get blown out in game 2.
Yeah.
When the Pacers won game 1 in New York, when the Reggie Miller had us 8 points in 8.9 seconds thing, they got blown out in game 2. They won the series, but they got blown out in game 2. So, I keep thinking that this team is going to come back down to earth at some point and pay for all of its dramatic victories that it's getting and get blown out or just lose, but they haven't, So, my gut feeling would have been for most teams that, they'll lose game 2 and maybe get beat badly. But this team, to this point, has not shown a tendency to do that. Now, they did, they lost to Milwaukee. They did lose a game to Cleveland. They could lose games. But, yeah, if they win tonight, obviously, you would think the series is over. But even if they do lose tonight and even if they lose badly, I still like their chances in this series. They just have so much confidence now. They have a lot of momentum. And, again, I think their depth should carry them through the series. But I keep looking at that Knicks front line, and Brunson is so good that it still would not surprise me, obviously, for the Knicks to win the series. So it's just a great series. It's really a great series. I think the nation, I've seen the TV ratings on it. I think it's really captured the interest of NBA fans throughout the country to see the differences. And I think people are really latching on to this Pacers team because of the way they play together and the enthusiasm they show. So I just expect it to go at least 6 games, if not 7. And I would not make a prediction until you get to that final game.
I like that. I like that a lot. Mark, one more before we got to let you go and get to our final break of the day. Will the finals, the Oklahoma City Thunder are up 2-0, and they've looked pretty daggum strong throughout the playoffs. They had their test there with the Denver Nuggets. But will the finals be competitive, in your opinion, with how the Thunder have been playing? I know that the Pacers and the Knicks have been playing some good ball as well, but the Thunder look like they are on a mission.
Yeah, whoever the Thunder play, they're going to be the odds-on favorite to win the series. And I went back the other day and looked at the Pacers-Thunder games over the course of the season. The Pacers got blown out in Oklahoma City and got beat by 10 or 12 in Indianapolis. Now, the Pacers have improved a lot since then. They played in January the first time in Oklahoma City. They're a different team now than they were then. But Oklahoma City is going to be the favorite to win the championship. And they've got a great team. They've got a lot of balance. They've got great chemistry. But, if it happens to be the Pacers, I have a hard time betting against them now, just the way they're playing and the enthusiasm they have. I think it'll come down if either team in the finals suffers a key injury, a major injury, then that could swing it. But no question, Oklahoma City is going to be the favorite, regardless of who they play.
Mark, thanks so much for your time. And who do you got winning the Indy 500?
Oh, I don't have a favorite for that. I used to cover the race. I haven't for a while. And to me, it's hard to pick a favorite because just about every car is the same.
Yeah.
And there's a handful of drivers who are certainly capable of doing that. Newgarden would be a safe pick to win 3 in a row, but the odds are always against that happening. And so I really couldn't pick one for you. The race is always fun to watch because they kind of falsely manipulate it to keep it close with the bunch-up rules, the yellow lights. but it could be one of about a half dozen guys.
All right, we'll take that. And Mark, thanks so much for your time, and we appreciate you. And hopefully we get to talk again sometime during the NBA Finals.
Okay, always a pleasure.
All right, that's Mark Monteith, ladies and gentlemen. Go follow him on Twitter at Mark Monteith, or go to markmonteith.com. He's got a lot of great stuff there. He's also wrote the Passion Play, which is about Purdue, Reborn about the Pacers, Extra Innings, which is about the Indy Indians, and he's edited a book, which I believe he's actually selling, standing by and at a table and kind of presenting right now on the Indy 500 champion, Bill Vukovich. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. Coming up next, we've got Coach Scott Thomas on the Red 7T's phone line.
ESPN Northwest Florida. It's the Coach James Hale Show.
Losing to Michigan, you're on the hot seat.
Did you see his face after that loss? I thought he was going to drop dead of a heart attack.
Yeah,
I thought his face was die.
There was some demon that took over his body and made the words come out. Demons come out. Your quarterback said that.
On national TV.
On national TV.
Weekday morning 7 to 9. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Get ready for your next adventure and discover Kia at Bill Bird Kia today. Check out the 2025 SUV family. The road is yours. Take a test drive and see the all-new features that elevate any adventure. Now offering 1.9% APR up to 60 months on the purchase of a new 2025 Kia Sportage or a 2025 Kia Sorento. You'll get the perfect balance of comfort, safety, and technology. We'll treat you like family and give you the peace of mind that you can trust. Bill Bird Kia is the home of that 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty. Stop by and see us at 2435 East 15th Street or anytime at BillBirdKiaPanamaCity.com. See us today.
Offer from Kia Finance America for the purchase of a new 2025 Kia Sportage and a 2025 Sorento with $1,748 per month per 1,000 financed in 60 months. Quantities limited. Cannot be combined with other finance offers not available on balloon financing. The 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty is a Bill Bird Kia warranty. See dealer for complete details. Offer for well-qualified buyers must take delivery from dealer stock through 6/2/25.
Now is the time for Braves country to cheer a little louder as the 2025 Atlanta Braves start chopping their way back.
Fly ball to deep right, way back and gone. Home run, Ozuna.
Tonight, the Braves are back in town and Truist Park will be rocking as they look for some redemption against the San Diego Padres.
Padres in Atlanta to take on the Braves. Coverage starts at 6 o'clock. First pitch, 6:15. Your home for the Braves on the Gulf Coast, ESPN Northwest Florida.
You found us inside the CBC Construction Studios. Hometown sports talk from hometown hosts.
People are loving it.
We're live and local. Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs.
Are you kidding me?
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
By CBC Construction. Head on over to cbcconstruction.com or call them at 850-747-3815. CBC Construction. Also, the Braves and the Padres coming up after the Afternoon Underdogs coverage starting at 6 o'clock for a first pitch time of 6:15. Going to be Nick Pivetta going for the Fathers, going up against the Atlanta Braves. Chris Sale. Ronald Acuna Jr. back on the diamond this evening. Let's get over to the Red 7T's phone line as we've got Scott Thomas on with us. He's the head coach for the Lady Commodores Gulf Coast State College softball squad. Coach Scott, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Dave. How are you?
I am doing well. Thanks for giving us some of your time this afternoon. Sad news with Florida State going down earlier today against Texas Tech, the first elimination of the Super Regionals. Oklahoma's on the TV right now. They're up on Alabama in the top of the sixth, 3-0. But, Coach, tell us about the season for the Lady Commodores and how all of that played out.
Well, we had a rough year, I think, overall. Now, we made the regionals. We're able to make the playoffs, state playoffs. But overall, it was, as I said, for those of you that are old enough to ride wooden roller coasters, it was like that was up and down and was really rough. And so, we had some injuries. We had
one of our top recruits, a kid that we really thought was a quality kid that was going to come in and do a great job for us. She decided to go back home to deal with a boyfriend, and okay, we didn't expect that. But anyway, sometimes those things happen. And then, we just had we couldn't keep things consistent, although we had some great wins early and some not so bad wins later on. We just couldn't keep it consistent like I would have liked to have seen, and it turned into just being a good year, not a great year, and looking forward to doing better here in the future.
There you go, Coach. Tough season, but you guys can bounce back from it. And you still made the playoffs despite the injuries and the, situations playing out not necessarily in y'all's favor. Do we know if her and the boyfriend ended up working out or not?
I don't even ask. No, they better.
Yeah, exactly.
It's one of those things that's like I really wanted to go have a talk with a young man, but, it is what it is. We're talking about young people that, sometimes things get a little misconstrued. My guess is that later on down the line, she's going to understand that she missed a great opportunity. And when you're, at our level, and really any level, I was like, if you lose someone who doesn't I don't know, if it's one of your top dogs, that's a big miss, and in her case she could hit home runs too. She was a power hitter, and so that kind of hurt. I will say though, Ainsley Stubbs stepped it up and did a heck of a job for us. I thought Ainsley she kept the ball in the park, did just a phenomenal job. She just committed to Morehead State in Kentucky. Kaylee Navarre was solid for us, and Kaylee played through an injury. She's got an ulnar nerve injury she needs to get fixed, which is kind of a normal thing, and she's going to Georgia Southwestern, we had a couple more. We got Lindsey Paul that's she's going to ABAC, which is now Andrew what is that? Andrew Baldwin, I guess, and Andrew Baldwin at Agricultural College in Georgia. That was
Abraham Baldwin Agricultural.
Abraham Baldwin, thank you, Abraham Baldwin. I knew I wasn't saying it right. And we got a couple others looking for places. We've got Kaylin Cook, who has got a lot of people after her. She's
the catcher, right?
She's the catcher. She hit like 412 for us. She hit about a dozen home runs, and she may end up at Troy. That's where it looks like right now that she's going, but that's all up to her, and she has options. So anyway, we've got several kids. Macy Robinette, who was our leadoff, she's got some options coming up as well. So we had some kids that could play and stepped it up. We have two kids going to Alabama A&M. So it's we're sending them out, which that's good. That's what our job is supposed to be, is to get them ready to go to a 4-year, if that's what they want to do.
Absolutely. Coach, how tough was the Panhandle Conference this year?
It's funny. I put a thing out on Facebook the other night. I was a little aggravated, to be honest with you. We kept on hearing about how down our conference was, and maybe we were down. I don't know. I thought Northwest was very good. They had a top dog pitcher. They won today in the winners bracket, beat Florida Southwestern 3-1. So they're now in the championship game, waiting to see who they're going to play. That's going to have to knock them off twice. It's an old school double elimination format at the NJCAA level. And I thought they were very solid. I thought Chipola and us were very good. Chipola had a great run down they played great in the postseason. They made it to nationals, but only 3 teams get to come out of our region. So even though the state of Florida tournament's better than the national tournament, and in an overall sense, and we made it there, but only 3 teams get to come out. So it ended up being two Panhandle teams and then Florida Southwestern, which tells me we couldn't have been but so down. And Pensacola the same way. Tallahassee, I tell you, Coach Back is doing a great job of turning that program around. They came away with some wins this year, probably some wins that helped us because we actually swept them, but they got some wins over Pensacola and some other teams that kind of helped us with being in the 3-hole. But, I think in the end we were down, but we're better than I think than people gave us credit for as well.
Yes, sir. I mean, to have two of the Final Four in a tournament that most people would say is above the national tournament, I would say that the Panhandle Conference was not too far down this year. All right, Coach, we've got about 2 minutes here, so let's sprint through some of these regionals, these super regionals. You pick your winner, and then tell us one thing that stands out to you about the series or what you're watching for in each super regional. Let's start, FSU, Texas Tech. That one is over. Texas Tech moving on. Oklahoma, Alabama. Oklahoma has a 3-0 lead right now going into the bottom of the 6th inning. Who wins that series? And give me one thing that stands out to you.
Well, I think the biggest thing with Oklahoma is I think they've kind of been. I think they're got a little chip on their shoulder because now they're in there and having to step it up in the SEC. They had some losses. They dropped from number 1 down to I think 4 or 5. I think it ticked them off. I think they're trying to prove something.
All right, Coach. Nebraska, Tennessee.
That's going to be an interesting one, but I'm not sure that Nebraska has the offense to be able to handle. The Caden the Carly Pickens kid who's throwing mid-70s at times. And the thing about Tennessee, that Pickens gets all the visibility, but Tennessee can score.
Yes, sir. Texas and Clemson. Clemson has a 1-0 lead in that series. What do you see from that one?
Shocked out of that one a little bit. I was shocked that Clemson was able to come up with that upset right off the bat, but that puts a lot of pressure on the team. Texas is, in my opinion, is not playing as well down towards the end of the season, where Clemson is on an upswing and obviously won their region. So, hey, I'm telling you, Clemson goes out there 1-7-4. Texas may have a tough time coming back and winning another one right there, trying to beat them. So I'm kind of thinking Clemson may do something there.
All right, Coach, let's rattle off these in a rapid-fire fashion here because I've got 30 seconds before we got to get out for the rest of the weekend. Liberty, Oregon, who wins?
Liberty, they're hot. God's on their side.
Hey, I love it. Georgia, Florida.
Well, Florida won today 6-1, so I think Florida's going to be the team to beat.
Ole Miss, Arkansas.
Ole Miss won, so I'm going to go with Ole Miss, and they can hit the ball.
All right, and then UCLA, South Carolina.
South Carolina won today, surprising fashion. They got a kid named Abigail Knight that I had signed at Virginia Tech, so I'm kind of pulling for the Gamecocks because of that kid, and I'm up for them.
All right, Coach, thanks so much for your time. We will catch up with you later. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for riding along with the Afternoon Underdogs. Your Atlanta Braves are coming up next. Jesus loves you, so do I, and thanks to our heroes. Happy Memorial Day weekend.
The ride home just got more dangerous. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida is your spot for the Afternoon Underdogs.
One of the more underrated, fast as lightning. You know that he's got perseverance.
Weekdays 4 to 6 live from the CB